I've hiked that trail before, more than once, so I knew exactly where I was going. That's why none of this made sense, because the path I followed that day wasn't supposed to be there. It started like any normal hike, late afternoon, not too hot, not too cold, just one of those quiet days where the forest feels calm. I wasn't planning anything serious, just a quick loop trail I'd done a few times before, in and out, maybe an hour. I parked my car near the entrance. No one else was there. Not unusual. That trail doesn't get much traffic. I grabbed my water, checked my phone, and started walking. The first part was exactly how I remembered. Narrow dirt path, trees on both sides, just enough sunlight breaking through the canopy. You could hear birds, wind through the leaves, normal forest sounds. Everything felt right, familiar. And when a place feels familiar, you stop paying attention to the small things. That was my first mistake. About 20 minutes in, I reached a section I remembered. There's supposed to be a bend in the trail. You take a left, and it loops back toward the parking area. I've taken that turn every time. But this time, there was something else. A second path. It wasn't obvious. It didn't have a sign. But it was there. A narrow trail, slightly hidden between trees, like it wasn't meant to stand out. I stopped for a second, just looking at it, trying to remember if I'd seen it before. And that's the thing. It felt familiar. Not clearly, not exactly, but enough that my brain said, yeah, maybe I just didn't notice it before. That's all it takes. Not certainty, just enough doubt to move forward. So I stepped onto it. The moment I did, something felt off. Not scary, just different. The ground felt softer. The trees were closer together. The path was narrower, like it hadn't been used much. But it was still clear enough to follow. So I kept going, because at that point, it still felt like a normal trail. Just one I hadn't taken before. A few minutes passed. Then I noticed something. The sound was gone. No birds, no wind, no leaves moving, nothing. And you don't realize how loud a forest is until it goes completely silent. I stopped walking, just stood there, listening. Nothing. Not even distant noise. Just silence. That's when I started thinking, okay, this is weird. Not dangerous, just wrong. Like the environment changed, but I didn't notice when. I turned around, thinking maybe I just went too far. But when I looked back, the path behind me didn't look the same. When I turned around, I expected to see the same trail, same trees, same direction I came from, but it didn't look right. The path was still there, but it felt narrower, darker, like it had closed in behind me. The trees looked closer together, almost like they weren't spaced the same anymore. I stood there for a second, trying to figure out what exactly was different, but I couldn't explain it, so I did what anyone would do. I turned back forward and kept walking. After a while, I checked the light. It was getting darker. Too fast. When I started the hike, the sun was still high enough. I had at least an hour before sunset. But now, the light looked like it was already late evening. The sky through the trees was dimmer than it should have been. And the weird part? It didn't feel like time had passed that long. I hadn't been walking that far. Not enough for the sun to drop like that. That's when I pulled out my phone, just to check the time. It didn't load at first, then it did. But the time didn't make sense. It said almost an hour had passed. I stared at it, trying to replay everything in my head. There's no way. I hadn't walked that long. It felt like maybe 20 minutes, 30 at most, but not an hour. I kept moving. But now I was paying attention, really paying attention. And that's when I noticed it. The trail wasn't consistent. Sometimes it was dirt. Sometimes it looked like dry leaves. Then patches of soft ground again, like pieces of different trails stitched together. And the more I looked, the less it felt like a real path, more like something pretending to be one. Normally, trails have something: markers, paint, signs, even subtle ones. But this one had nothing. No marks on trees, no footprints, nothing to show people had used it before, which didn't make sense because it was clear enough to follow. Too clear for no one to have walked it. That's when the feeling started. Not fear, not panic, just awareness. Like something changed. Like I wasn't just walking anymore, like I was being noticed. I stopped again, looked around. Nothing. Just trees. Same as before. But it didn't feel empty anymore. I kept walking, trying to find anything familiar. And then I saw something. A fallen tree. Across the side of the path. Not blocking it. Just sitting there. I remembered it. I was sure I hadn't seen it before. But it felt familiar. Like I'd passed it already. I kept going. 5 minutes later, I saw it again. The same tree. Same position. Same broken branch sticking out. I stopped. Completely still. Because now, I knew something was wrong. After seeing that tree again, I didn't think twice. I turned around. Fully this time. Not just looking back. I started walking back the way I came. Same pace, same direction. Trying to retrace every step. Because at that point, I wasn't exploring anymore. I was trying to leave. At first, it felt like it was working. The trail looked normal. Same narrow path, same trees. But after a few minutes, I noticed something. The ground didn't match. There were no footprints, not even mine.
Where's the path?
I looked down again. Nothing.
Anyone out here?
Like I hadn't walked there at all. I stopped, turned around again, looked forward, then back, and that's when it hit me. Both directions looked the same, not similar. The same trees, same spacing, same path. Like the trail didn't have a direction anymore. Just forward. I started walking faster. Not running, but not slow anymore either. The kind of pace you pick up when you're trying not to panic. The path kept going, straight, no turns, no bends, just the same narrow trail. And the longer I walked, the more it felt like I wasn't getting anywhere. That feeling came back, stronger now, not just awareness, pressure, like something was close, not behind me, not in front, just near. I stopped again, listened. Nothing. But it didn't feel empty anymore. That's when I really looked around, not just at the trail, at everything. The trees weren't normal, not broken, not unnatural, just too consistent. Same height, same spacing. Like they were placed there, not grown. And once you notice something like that, you can't unsee it. I made a decision. I stepped off the path. Just one step into the trees. To cut across. Find a different way out. But the moment I did, it felt wrong. The ground was softer. The space between trees felt tighter. And the path was still visible behind me. Clear. Almost like it was waiting. I didn't go far. Just a few steps. Then I stopped, turned back, and stepped onto the trail again. Because even though the path didn't make sense, it still felt safer than whatever was off it. That's when I understood something. I wasn't just lost. I wasn't turned around. This wasn't bad navigation. The trail itself was wrong. And if the trail was wrong, then following it wasn't going to help. After that, I stopped trying to understand it, because understanding it wasn't helping. I just stood there, on the trail, not moving. And that's when it changed again. That feeling wasn't just pressure anymore. It was direction. Like it wasn't just near me. It was somewhere specific. I didn't see it clearly. Not at first. It was more like movement. Something between the trees. Far enough that I couldn't focus on it, but close enough that I knew it wasn't nothing. I turned my head slowly, trying not to lose it. But the moment I focused on it, it was gone. I told myself it was an animal. Had to be. Deer. Something small. Something normal. But that didn't make sense, because there hadn't been any sound. No branches moving. No leaves. Nothing. Just movement. I kept walking. Slow, controlled, trying to stay calm. And then I saw it again. Same distance. Same place. Between the trees. Not crossing the path. Not approaching. Just there. Keeping pace with me. That's when I noticed something. Every time I slowed down, it slowed down. Every time I stopped, it stopped. Not immediately, but close enough, like it was reacting, not moving randomly, moving with me. I stopped trying to look at it directly because every time I did, it disappeared. Without realizing it was closer. Not suddenly, not fast, just closer than before. Close enough now, but I didn't have to look for it. I could feel it, right there, parallel to me, just off the trail. That's when I made the worst decision. I stopped walking, completely, and slowly. I turned my head, look at it directly. I turned, slowly, trying to control it. Trying not to it wasn't a person. It wasn't proportions were wrong, too tall. I didn't know this. The moment I looked at it, it stopped. Watching me for a while. It wasn't far anymore. Maybe 15 feet. Close enough to reach in seconds. Close enough that if it moved, I wouldn't have time to react. And that's when it hit me. It had been getting closer. I took one step back. Just one. And it moved. Not fast, but immediately. No delay this time. No hesitation. That's when I lost it. Everything I was holding back was gone. I turned and I ran, full speed, down the trail. Not fast, not moving, just run. I ran, ground uneven, then I heard it. Not exactly, but moving, fast, matching, closing his head, and I hear it. I look back. I see it right there. Every instant said, look, check, see where it is. But something deeper said, don't, because if I saw it clearly, that would be worse. And then, suddenly, the trees opened, the trail ended, just like that, and I stumbled forward, out onto the main path. Everything was back. The real trail, the one I knew, wide, clear, normal. I stopped, turned around. The path behind me was gone. No narrow trail, no open, just trees. Exactly how it should have been. Never there. I didn't move. Stood there on the main path,
Where's the path?
trying to process what just happened.
Anyone out here?
Everything around me looked normal.
Nothing.
The same forest I started in. The same sounds came back. Birds. Stop where that other no sign that I've ever seen. Just trees. I turned and walked back. Fast, not running, finally reached my car, I felt it. That shift.
Almost through.
Like stepping out of something. Like whatever that place was. Didn't follow me. I got in. Locked the doors immediately. Sat there for a second. Hands still shaking. Then, I looked at the clock. And that's when it hit me again. The time didn't match. Not even close. Before I drove off, I was back in the trailer. For a second, I thought I saw it. Not clearly, not fully. Just something standing between the trees, in the same place, watching. And it was gone. Just trees and nothing else. I haven't gone back there since. Not because I was scared of getting lost, but because I don't think I was lost. I think I went somewhere I wasn't supposed to go. And whatever was there, let me leave. But the part that doesn't sit right with me is this. That trail didn't pull me in. It didn't force me. It just was there, waiting, like it knew. She had already been walking for weeks by that point, not rushing, not trying to prove anything, just moving at her own pace, the way people do when they've settled into the rhythm of a long trail. Wake up, pack your things, walk for hours, stop when you need to, then do it all again.
Where's the path?
After a while,
Anyone out here?
like something difficult. It just becomes warm. That's where she was. Comfortable. Used to it. The trail wasn't something unfamiliar anymore. It was something she trusted. That morning didn't stand out in any way. No strange weather, no sense that something was off. Just another stretch of the Appalachian Trail. Time she had already grounded. Broken up by trees space just far enough apart to the right, but still dense enough to feel like it's inside something. It wasn't quiet. It was quiet. Shifting slightly. Distant sounds you don't really pay attention to. The kind that fade into the background after a while. When you spend enough time out there, your brain stops noticing those things. They just become part of the environment.
Almost
She
through.
wasn't alone on the trail overall, but in that moment, she might as well have been. That's normal too. People spread out. Some move faster, some slower. Sometimes you don't see anyone for hours. Nothing about it would have made you stop and think twice. She kept walking, step after step, the same steady pace. Just enough to keep moving forward. She had ears for supply everything she needed. This wasn't the first day. She knew what she wanted. At some point. So she walked back the same way. At first, it doesn't register. Your brain doesn't go straight to panic. It tries to correct itself. It assumes you made a small mistake, that you stepped a little farther than you thought, that you turned slightly without realizing, so you adjust. Turn a little to the left. Take a few steps. Nothing. You turn the other way. Walk a bit farther. Still nothing. Now your attention sharpens. Everything around you suddenly matters in a way it didn't before. The trees, the ground, the direction of the light. You start scanning, not casually, but carefully, looking for anything that stands out, anything that looks familiar. A break in the trees, a patch of dirt, a sign that a path is nearby. But there's nothing, just more of the same. That's when you stop walking. Not because you've given up, but because something in your head pauses, like it's trying to catch up to what you're seeing. Because the situation doesn't match what you know. You were just on the trail. You didn't go far. There's no reason it shouldn't be right there. She turned slowly, looking behind her, trying to retrace the exact direction she came. But that's the problem. There was no clear direction anymore. When you're on a trail, movement is simple. Forward or back.
Whoa.
There's structure. There's a line to follow.
It's
Once you step off,
huge.
everything opens up. Every direction looks the same. Every tree is like. There's no edge, no boundary, no indication of where the trail ends and the forest begins. It all blends together. So she picked a direction, the one that felt right, the one her body told her she had just come from. And she walked, not far at first, just enough to see if something would appear. Nothing. Now the steps get louder, still controlled, still moving. There's a slight urgency starting to build underneath it, because it should have been there by now. You start
Easy.
thinking distances.
Steady.
I only walked 10 steps away,
Whoa.
maybe 15.
Meteor.
Even 20 isn't far. So where is it? She turned again, walked a different direction, then another. Each time expecting that familiar sight, the patch of dirt, the clear line of the trail cutting through the trees. But it never came into view. And that's the moment it changes. Not entirely. But something. The realization that this isn't that this isn't just a small mistake. The small mistakes fix themselves just once, maybe twice, and you're back. This wasn't happening like that. The forest around her didn't shift, didn't give anything away. It stayed exactly the same. Still, no sound, no sudden, nothing that was held right there. It didn't feel lost. It just didn't respond. She stopped again, this time alone, trying to think it through instead of just moving. Because movement wasn't working. The trail is nearby. I just need to find it. Simple. Logical. So she started moving. Slower this time. Looking down at the ground, searching for signs, footprints, disturbed dirt. Anything that showed she had already walked there. But the ground didn't show anything. No marks. No clear impressions. Just leaves and soft earth that looked untouched. She walked a little farther, then stopped. The trail wasn't just hidden. It was gone. And the longer she stood, the more that idea settled in. Not all at once. Not dramatically. Just quietly. Like a thought you don't want to accept, but can't ignore anymore. She wasn't stepping back onto the trail. She was already off it, and she had no idea how to get back. That's when the forest stopped feeling familiar. Not because anything changed visually, but because something changed in her. And once that happens, everything starts to feel different. even if it looks exactly the same. She didn't laugh. Because at that point, running would have meant accepting something was seriously wrong, and she wasn't there yet. She kept walking, slow at first, more careful than before, trying to stay control. When people get lost, they don't immediately panic. They try to solve it. They think, I just need to find one thing that looks familiar. So she moved in a straight line. That was the plan. Pick a direction, stick to it. Eventually, you'd hit something, tread, anything. But the forest didn't change. The trees stayed the same. The ground stayed the same. The light stayed the same. After a while, you stop noticing new things. Because there are. That's when time starts to feel different. Not faster, not slower, just unclear. She checked her watch, then kept walking. Checked it again later. It hadn't been as long as it felt. Or maybe it had been longer. It's hard to tell where the changes. And sometimes she stopped. Never settled for direction. But there wasn't any. No distant voices. No movement. No sign of people. Just the same still air. That's when something else starts happening. You start thinking about how far you've come, and you realize you don't actually know, because you didn't mark where you started. You didn't leave anything behind. You just walked. And now, there's no reference point, no starting line, no path, no direction, just space. She turned again, not fully around this time, just enough to look behind her. And something about it felt wrong, not visually. Nothing jumped out, nothing new. But it didn't feel like where she came from. That's hard to explain until you hit something. It's not about what you see. It's about what you don't know. She tried to go back, took a few steps, then a few more, waiting for something to click, for that feeling of, this is it, but it never came. Every direction now felt the same. Not similar, the same, like the forest wasn't giving her options anymore, just movement. That's when she sat down, not out of panic, out of confusion, trying to slow everything down, because moving wasn't helping, thinking wasn't helping. And for the first time, she let herself consider it, not fully, not out loud, but the thought was there. What if I'm not getting out of this quickly? It doesn't hit like fear. It hits like weight. Quiet. Heavy. Because once that thought is there, everything changes. You stop thinking about minutes and start thinking about hours. Then the sun shifts. The light drops just a little. Not enough to feel, but enough to notice. And that's when something else starts. Not just that she was lost, but that she had been lost. Farther than she realized. And that's when the situation stops. It starts moving. She kept checking her phone more often. First it was every once in a while, then every few minutes. Not because she expected anything to change, because she needed it to. Each time she looked at it, it was the same. No secret. Just that message saying, that's it. It doesn't feel serious the first time. You tell yourself, I'll get signal in a bit. But after a while, that thought stops feeling true. She tried walking with it in her hand, holding it up slightly, turning her body every few steps. Sometimes people say if you move just a little, but it didn't. Nothing changed. The screen stayed the same. That small detail starts to wear, because it's not about failure. It's a small one, repeated over and over, and that's what makes it worse. You're not completely cut off. You're just almost connected, almost able to reach something, almost able to fix it. But not quite. She stopped again, looked at the message, read it over, like maybe changing the words would help. It didn't. She typed another one, Shorter this time, more direct. Tried sending it again. Same result. Nothing moved. That's when the idea starts forming. Not clear. If she can't send
Easy.
It's
Steady.
how long am I going to be here? And that question doesn't have an
Meteor.
answer. She wasn't thinking about search teams yet. Not fully. That way, she still believed she could fix it herself. Find the trail. Get back. End the day. Together. Time kept moving. The light dropped in the car. And the harder she walked, the harder it became to move. Eventually, she stopped trying to cover distance. Because walking in random directions wasn't helping. It was just making everything feel bigger, more spread out. So she did what most people are told to do. She stayed in one place, not immediately, but gradually. The movement slowed, then stopped.
Whoa.
She found a spot that felt
It's
safer.
huge.
Not special, not safer, just somewhere she could stay without getting more lost. She set her things down, sat, and waited. That's the moment the situation changes. Because once you stop moving, you're not trying to escape. You're waiting to be found, and somewhere else. People were starting to notice she was missing. At first, it's small. A delay, a missed check-in, nothing urgent. But time keeps moving on both sides. And eventually, someone realizes something isn't right. That's when it becomes real for them. Not just a delay, a disappearance. Search teams get called. People who know the area. People trained for this. They move fast. In situations like this, get worse. They know that. They know how quickly someone can go from opening to command. So they start where she was last night. The same trail she had been walking, the same path she stepped on. They spread out, calling her name, looking for signs, footprints, broken branches and anything. Here's the part that doesn't sit right. They were close. Not across the forest, not miles away. Close. Close enough that if things were slightly different, they would have found her. They didn't, because from her side, she couldn't hear them. Maybe she did. And didn't know where it was coming from. Sound doesn't bother her. Shit. Bang. Comes from directions that don't make sense. And here's it. They don't hear it at all. And from their side, they couldn't see her. Because once you're off the trail, even a short distance, you disappear. Not physically, but visually. Trees block everything. Brush hides movement. You can be just out of sight
Watch it.
and be completely invisible. That's what people don't understand.
Almost
You don't
through.
need to be far away to be lost. You just need to be in the wrong place. She stayed where she was, believing that was right. And it was, technically. But is where it slows down.
Anyone out here?
It gets harder to listen to. She didn't move around as much anymore. Not because she gave up, but because moving wasn't helping. At some point, your body slows you down. Not out of fear, out of realization. Every direction. Every step feels like it could fall. So instead of trying to find something, you start trying to stay where you are. She found a spot on the building. Not safe. Not better. Just somewhere she could stop without being forced. She set her feet down. Exactly. And stayed. You go from, I'm getting out of this to, I need to stay. Check what you have left. Food, water. Not much, but not nothing. Enough to last if things worked out soon. That's the mindset. Not long term. Not survival. Just, this is enough until they find me. Same story. Same message. Still not seen. At that point, it's not surprising. It's expected. She looked at it, then put it away. There's no point checking every minute. Nothing changes that fast. Time passed. Not clearly. You don't feel hours in a straight line. You feel moments, then gaps between them. She stayed where she was, listened sometimes. But there was nothing to respond to. No clear sound, no direction, just the same stillness. And somewhere, she set up her table. Not like a normal table. No plan, no dream, just putting something in. So she wasn't sitting out in a small space house. So something was still inside. That mattered. Everything else was the still believed people were searching.
Here.
But not quite. She wrote things down. Not full entries, not long thoughts. Just simple lines. Trying to keep track of things. Trying to stay grounded. Because when everything around her Because you don't know how long to keep believing.
Almost
You
through.
don't know when to stop expecting something, or if you even should. And every time you listen, you think you might hear something distant, something faint, but it never becomes clear, never becomes real enough to follow. So you stay, and hope it gets closer, but it doesn't. Or it nothing about it is giving you a reason. That's what it is. Not just being honest, not just being she didn't make a final decision. There wasn't a point where she said, "This is it." It didn't happen.
Easy.
It was just
Steady.
time continued,
Whoa.
without anything changing.
Meteor.
The same place, the same trees, the same small space she stayed in. At some point, the waiting didn't feel temporary. Not because she gave up, but because there was nothing left to respond to. No sign of no signal, no sign that anything had shifted. Just the same stillness, stretching longer than it should. She stayed where she was. Because leaving didn't make sense. Because staying was still the right thing to do. And because at that point, there wasn't really another option. Time kept moving forward, quietly, without marking itself. Days blending into each other, until eventually, there wasn't anything left to measure it against. Years later, someone walked into that same part of the forest, not looking for her, just passing through. And that's when they found it. The tent. Still there. Not far from where the trail was. Close enough that it doesn't feel close. But far enough that no one saw it. Inside, everything was still there. The belongings. The personal things. The same space she was in. And the notes she left behind. Simple things. Small pieces of art. The kind of writing that respects something. Getting closer, because that belief never really disappears. It just gets quieter. She wasn't running. She wasn't lost in panic. She was waiting in the same place, doing what she was supposed to do, and still, it wasn't enough. That's what stays with people. Not the idea of getting lost, but how little it takes. One step off the path.